It's very stressful. It's
Yeah,
hard.
yes, it is hard. I think the easiest thing you can do when you feel yourself frustrated, when you feel yourself getting angry and you're on the road, put yourself in a position on the road where you're not around traffic. Give yourself a chance to cool off. Change the radio station. Do something to distract yourself. Don't blow off steam, because blowing off steam really doesn't work.
And it's not the stress that really causes the accident. Often you cause somebody else to have an accident.
That's exactly right. Very good point. Not all of these result in accidents with the two cars involved.
Okay, Mark Edwards, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Now let's go back to Jeff.
So, Odette, thank you. It's been called the greatest art theft in history, and it was not done only for the money. Sometime during World War II, the treasures of this medieval church in Germany were hidden for safekeeping in a cave outside the town. Shortly after the war, a U.S. Army lieutenant with an apparent taste for fine art had come upon that cave, and a number of those items then disappeared and ended up in his home in a small town in Texas. The rest of this amazing story is the subject of a new book. It's called Treasure Hunt. And author and New York Times reporter William Honan is here with more. Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Jack.
We had a chance to see just in that tape some of those items, but give us a sense of what types of items we're talking about here.
They're miraculous. There are about a dozen of them, and it includes medieval manuscripts, one of them written in gold ink, things called reliquaries, which are containers for ancient Christian relics, splinters from Noah's Ark, drops of milk from the Virgin Mary, and so forth. They're absolutely mind-boggling, breathtaking, extraordinary.
How'd you get involved in this search? And by the way, this has been written up, and it's true after having read the book, as if it was a real-life detective thriller. But how'd you first get involved?
I toyed around with the idea, you might say, and finally, I guess what did it is I was entranced by the exotic nature of these things. And also, I felt that although I stood not much of a chance of finding them and bringing them back to where they belonged, that this was part of the unfinished business of the 20th century, to restore. We can't bring back the people who lost their lives in that terrible war, but we can restore some of the cultural property. We hear about that with the Swiss banks today.
This journey, this detective search you went on, took you from this quaint castle town in Germany to a very unlikely location in Texas. How'd you get there?
Indeed. Well, it was taken to Whitewright, Texas, up near the Oklahoma border. It was brought there by this GI, Joe Tom Metter, who actually mailed the stuff home through the Army post office. And
which is kind of an astonishing image when you think about it. These beautiful items that you're talking about here getting dropped in the mail from Germany to this little town in Texas.
That's right. It's the most unlikely place to find a king's ransom. It really is. It's a windblown, desolate little community, a former cotton capital, but now a town that's come on hard times.
When he got back there to that town, what happened to these items?
Well, he had various interests. He had studied art, and he loved these things, and he preserved them. He also happened to be gay, and you know the line about come up and see my etchings. He would use them, go to a gay bar in Dallas and meet someone who he found attractive and say, come on up and see my king's ransom. And he had a king's ransom to show.
Did he ever, as far as you were able to determine, attempt to sell them himself? He must have known the value of these things.
Yeah, I think he did. He didn't attempt to sell them. He resisted many efforts by friends who told him that he ought to get rid of them, return them, something. He didn't do that, but it was when he died in 1980 that his brother and sister inherited all of his possessions, and they were the ones who were only interested in the cash value of these things, and they spent 10 years trying to sell them.
When you talk about bizarre images here, we talked about the juxtaposition of this castle town and this small, dusty town in Texas.
Yes.
You also talk about the fact that his family tried to sell these things at one point in time in a yard sale.
Yes,
for $500.
That's right, that's right. And there were no takers up there in Texas. They're not very sophisticated art buyers, I guess. But that's right. I think the most outrageous thing that happened is when they went to Christie's, the art auction house. Christie's kept them for 5 months trying to determine what they were, and finally found out beyond any doubt that they were stolen property. And then what did Christie's do? The real villain of this story, or one of many, I guess, they return them to the presumptive thief, rather than blow the whistle, call the cops, or do the things that you would expect honorable people that I think we would do. They didn't do that.
Now, how many of the items have ultimately been recovered?
10.
Out
And
of?
Out of 12, and there are 2 still missing, probably somewhere in Texas.
Any idea at all where they might be and how they could be tracked down?
No, I think probably some of his gay friends at the end of his life may have stolen them from him. I know of one case where that happened. The man was conscience-stricken and returned the objects to him. But I think there were other cases. I can't be sure. But we did find the 10 most valuable of them, which are valued at something like $200 million. We're not talking about Christmas tree ornaments.
It's an astonishing story. The book, again, is Treasure Hunt. It does indeed, as someone says on the back, read like a real-life thriller, which it was. Bill Honan, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Jack.
Good luck to you. And coming up in our next half hour, we're going to have some important information for you about the latest in breast cancer treatment. That when we return after these messages.
He's worked almost 40 years. She's worked almost 40 years. And during that time, they've gone on walks together instead of cruises, and shared secrets together instead of champagne, just so that someday they could retire and be together all the time. At Cigna, we care about the retirement dreams of over 5 million people. After all, there are dreams too. Cigna, a business of caring.
It was the first time I had seen this play, and I just had to know.
Romeo, dost thou love me?
Does that love come with a lifetime guarantee? Huh?
Lifetime guarantee? What do you think this is? That new GM Goodwrench Service Plus?
I got a lifetime guarantee on parts and labor, plus upfront pricing, plus courtesy transportation, new GM Goodwrench Service Plus.
The plus means better.
Call for the select GM dealer near you.
When you've got a classic, you don't need to add anything extra. Something truly authentic is best left alone. That's why Classico is different than Prego and Ragu. They add corn syrups. Classico doesn't. All its flavor comes from classic ingredients like vine-ripened tomatoes and roasted garlic, not corn syrup like Prego and Ragu, which is the difference between a classic and something that isn't. Classico. You can't improve on a classic.
Thought the cold might keep them away. Think again.
This season, everyone's discovering something new in St. John's Bay. The Lodge look. Thick sweaters and hardy flannels, perfect for cozy winter weekends, and only at JCPenny.
Say, is St. John's Bay always this cool?
Yeah.
JCPenny, I love your style.
A large selection of St. John's Bay for him is now just $24.99.
Coming up in our next half hour, some hints and some tips on new treatments available for breast cancer patients.
And also travel editor Peter Greenberg's going to be here to talk about cruise ship values.
And we'll talk with Bill Macy about his new movie after these messages.
The good news, David, is that we got come out of the high point, but for some reason, we'll just take so, talk to these guys. We're not
Hey, Frankie, want some Danish?
No, man, I already got it.
Complete bran flakes.
Mm-hmm.
What, something wrong?
Yeah, something's wrong.
Yeah?
They took me off ladders. I eat lousy. I haven't been working out. I'm not a rookie anymore. I gotta do something.
Thousands of people have started turning their lives around with 4 little words. Kellogg's Complete Bran Flakes.
I guess you're gonna toss that.
No, I'll give it to the rookies.
Kellogg's Complete Bran Flakes. It's a start.
Dateline Monday. They say they know what's best for them, but why won't the hospital allow them to do what they think is right? A family's emotional plea.
Dateline Monday.
On NBC.
This is the story of the happy-go-lucky turtle and the hyperactive hare who frantically went in search of fun and fortune everywhere.
while the turtle and his friends knew right where to go. St. Croix Casino and Hotel for action and excitement that lasts. Get the luck of the turtle every time you play. For fun and excitement, the turtle knows the way.
Who says giants don't roam the earth? Whales, a film that almost splashes you in the face with its energy and beauty. Now playing at the Science Museum's Omni Theater, sponsored by US West. Open Tuesday through Sunday, daytime and evening shows.
Today, Marino's Dolphins face the high-flying Jets, or Bledsoe and the Patriots host the Bills, or Oilers Bengals. The NFL on NBC today at noon Eastern.
Sorry.
Late for work? Try the new Accord V6 Coupe from Honda.
Rick Capcella on KARE 11 News.
We're back about 26 minutes after the hour. Bill Honan is staying with us here to talk a little bit more about Treasure Hunt, the book. You were just telling a pretty funny story about all of this.
Yes, well, there were amusing moments. Once I knew what I was looking for, and I began calling around Texas, speaking to appraisers, art dealers, pawn shop owners, and so forth. At one point, I called a guy in San Antonio, Texas, a little old bookstore there, I guess, and told him what I wanted, and he said, no, sir, we haven't seen anything like that. We're fresh out of medieval manuscripts.
It seems that a lot of people actually had their hands on these things. I mean, many different appraisers looked at them in some...
Well, they did, and none of them really behaved in what I would regard as an honorable fashion. I'm not going to say that they broke the law. I think, in fact, the law should be changed. In which case they would have broken the law for not having called the authorities and said, look, somebody has presented some obviously stolen property. Instead of doing that, they would surreptitiously return the material to the presumptive thief. I think that's outrageous. I think it's disgusting.
I didn't realize,
we need a new law.
I didn't realize, Bill, to tell you the truth, that there were laws about stolen items such as this, stolen art objects. That essentially require you to do something, right? What are you supposed to do?
Well, as a matter of fact, you don't have to. You see, the present law says that we don't want to become a society of informers, where we're tattling on each other. And so even if you witness a crime, there's no law that says that you must report it as a citizen. However, as a museum curator, as a dealer who is licensed, we should expect a higher standard of behavior from those individuals, and that's where I think we need some corrective legislation.
So right now, if I'm running a museum and somebody walks up to me and goes like this to me and says, I got some great artwork here for sale, and I look at this, and I recognize this as being stolen from someplace,
yes.
No obligation to let authorities know?
No obligation.
But they all seem to say, well, we wouldn't ever, we would never touch it because it's stolen. Obviously stolen, but they weren't going to...
Well, they realize they're smart enough to know that they can't sell it. They can't make a legitimate sale.
So it doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
Well, once again, the book is Treasure Hunt. Bill Honan, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good. Take care. We'll be back after these messages. Stay with us.
They let him out of jail, but she's planning her own escape.
I'm gonna tell my husband.
Don't do this!
This time he'll listen.
Every 9 seconds, NBC Tonight.
People talk about climbing the ladder to success. or what you need to do to climb the corporate ladder. That's all well and good, but don't forget the higher you climb up a ladder, the farther you can fall. And if you don't have a solid foundation, your ladder can tip over. So before you climb your ladder, you need a good footing. And the only way to get it is to stay in school.
Belinda Jensen on KARE 11 News.
There were times I left your heart in vain, times I turned and walked away. I get to where I'm going just fine. Won't be happy in this world if you're not by my side. Ellie, my love, so sweet. Smile for me, won't you, baby? Forever you'll be on my mind.